Survival games usually have a lot of mechanics and systems that give players a huge variety of tasks and things to do through the course of the game. For experienced players, this is great, but for new players, this can make the start to any survival game daunting. Where do you start? What do you do first? How do you progress? What should you concentrate on? Vrising is no different in this respect. One misplaced step and you can find yourself in trouble, outnumbered, and kissed in the dirt. Yummy. This video is meant to be a helpful guide to new players on getting a good start to the game, the systems and a foundation to build your immortal empire. Grab your cape, put your fangs in, and get out that coffin. We're in for a ride. So the first thing to note is in the top left of the corner of the screen is a rough guide on how to progress throughout Vrising, giving you something to aim for. It's fairly basic, however it gives you some idea of what you should be aiming for. With that small bit out of the way, let's talk about how health actually works, as it is slightly more involved. Your health bar is displayed here. Great, taking damage will remove health. This is all pretty simple so far, but this is where things can slightly differ, and this is how you passively regenerate health. You can only do a certain amount, and this is indicated by a dark bar, which you can see here. To regain the rest of your health, you will need to actively heal. There are a couple of ways to do this. You can use potions, which will restore health, or you can use an ability called Blood Mend. This will remove blood from your blood pool to regain lost health. What is the blood pool, I hear you ask? Well, it's here. The blood pool starts at 100% and slowly drains over time. And using that Blood Mend ability, it will cause that drain to happen quicker. If your blood pool gets depleted, you hit 0, you'll start taking damage on your actual health bar. I hear you, dear viewer. How do I replenish the blood pool? Well, luckily this is actually fairly easy. Once you get an enemy low in health, the option will appear to drink their blood. This will replenish your blood pool and change your blood type and percentage to that of the enemy you just fed on. This can all be found here. The only enemies you can't feed off are undead, because, you know, they're like dead and don't have blood anymore. Just a side note, whilst feeding you still take damage, but you can also left mouse click to instantly kill the enemy you're feeding on. It can be quite handy to take down more difficult mobs when they are low on health. Your blood type will change depending on what you feed from. You get different bonuses from the different blood types and the percentage of that blood type. This isn't additive. Feeding on a new enemy will change your type and or the percentage to that of the mob you've just killed. You can see here some of the different blood types and the benefits they provide depending on the percentage. Another way to restore your blood pool is you can eat hearts and rats that you find throughout the world. While they will increase your blood pool and they will fill it up, they will remove your blood type, meaning you won't have any of the benefits of any specific blood type. However, this can still actually be quite handy in some tight spots, especially if you're in areas where there's a lot of undead and there's nothing to feed off of. Next, let's talk about resource gathering. The prelude to crafting and building, there are a lot of materials and resources to gather around the map in Vrising, aside from your normal wood, stone, and metals. These can include things like paper, gems, whetstone. The list goes on and on. And on and on and on and on and on. On the map, you can hover over an area to see what resources can be found there. Some of these are naturally just found, such as copper, iron, or gem-rich rock. Others are materials that can drop with a higher frequency from the mobs around or looted from the chests. They can also drop from breaking items such as barrels, chairs, so make sure you break everything you can when you clear a camp. When gathering fiber, wood, and stone, the tool you use to gather can provide a benefit to how efficiently or fast you gather. Hitting trees with an axe is much faster than hitting a tree with a mace or sword. Use axes on trees, maces on stone and metal veins, and the sword or sickle on plants and grass for fiber. The different grades of weapon and tools will provide additional bonus to the speed, with added benefits from improving the mace. Using a stone mace will allow you to gather copper. A copper mace will allow you sulfur. Merciless copper mace increases you to allow to mine from iron veins, and the merciless iron mace will let you mine from silver veins. For this reason, you might find it helpful to upgrade your mace first to its next tier sooner rather than later after unlocking the ability to make the next tier of weapons. With gathering done, you're probably asking what to do with all those materials that you have stored away in the many chests that you've now acquired through that resource gathering. Or how do you unlock those new tiers of weapons? So let's talk about it. To start, you can craft your basic armor, weapons, and other items straight from your inventory. As you follow the guide in game, you will craft your first armor and weapons and unlock your first building materials, being able to build walls, coffins, and buildings to process resources and crafting benches. The crafting benches will allow you to craft better weapons, armor, jewelry, and other items throughout the game. The materials required to craft something will be displayed when you hover over the item you want to make. To unlock new recipes, you can unlock them either through the various research benches that use blueprints you find from killing mobs, or paper scrolls and schematics to unlock random recipes in the applicable research table. Alongside this, some new structures and craftable items are unlocked from killing the multitude of bosses found within the game. To find these, you will need to construct a blood altar. With the blood altar open, you can see the various bosses, which powers they offer, new items to craft, and unlock new buildings. You can see bosses only up to a few levels above your gear score, which you increase from improving your gear. When you've selected a boss to track, you will get a red scent which will tell you the direction of the boss. You can then follow that scent to find and annihilate. You don't have a typical leveling experience of your normal killing mobs or gain experience to level. Instead, it's all based on your gear score. All your gear has a gear score, and your overall level is the total of your equipped gear score that you have equipped. This includes your weapon, armor, and jewelry. No, it is only the weapon you have equipped, not weapons you've got in your inventory. When it comes to building, a lot of how you build is more of a personal preference in terms of the aesthetics, but here are a few things to know. To start a building, you need to build a heart. You can have 2 of these for 2 potential castles to set up. You can space these out, allowing for easier access to process and craft resources that are found only in specific biomes of the map. With that, I'd also recommend, at least on PvE servers, is not build your castle on the edge of a map. You can build towards the center, or that you are able to go more directions from your castle to resources. Depending on where you do this, it will drastically reduce your travel time back to your castle with resources. Personally, I like to try and find somewhere fairly central to the map so I can go north, south, east, west without having to travel further than I have to. I'm trying to save you those long walks in the forest here. When you place your heart, you then have to claim land. You get more land you can claim as you level your heart up. To level your heart up, you'll need different materials, which it details when you open the heart and look at the top section of it. Also on the screen, you will see you have to feed your heart blood, a resource which is fairly commonly collected from mobs around the world. If this runs out, your castle will start to degrade. It's a nice way that if someone leaves the game, especially on like a PvE server with other people, their building doesn't stay indefinitely and allows you to utilize their land later on. Although following the in-game guide will tell you to build wooden walls and upgrade them to stone, do this for the guide. However, after this, just use stone walls. You'll save a ton of resources because you don't actually need the wooden walls, and then to upgrade them, you can just go straight to stone. Make sure you clear the area where you want to build, as you can't place walls if there's a tree or stone in the way, or any of the ruins as well. Oh, you're still getting burned by the sun? Well, you need a floor, because floors are the new ceilings. Filling a room with a floor will automatically place a roof on the room. This will save your pale soulless skin from the impending doom of light, giving you a bonus to your crafting and resources for being covered. You unlock specific floors from research stations using the correct floor. Say, workshop floor for the workshop buildings will reduce the resource costs of crafting and production in those rooms. To dedicate rooms to specific types of building, a tailor room, an alchemy room, a workshop room, a minion room, a bondage room, a prison room. You get the idea. The final thing I want to talk about is your combat and abilities. This tutorial talks you through the very basics, attacking and equipping weapons. I just want to go over a few of the other parts to do with combat and abilities. You have 6 skills plus a dodge that you can use, with the first 3 skills being dependent on the weapon, and the last 3 being 2 spells and 1 elite ability. For your weapons, your first 3 skills, depending on what weapon you wield, will change what these attacks look like and do. There are a variety of different weapons, and honestly, they all have their uses. Want to attack from afar? Use a crossbow. Want to have a heavy attack that knocks foes back? Use the mace. They're all useful and they're all pretty damn awesome. Saying that, your second and third ability will unlock depending on the tier of the weapon you're using. So using a copper weapon will increase to its second attack, and a higher grade weapon than that will unlock its third attack. The last 3 are your spells, which you can customize yourself by pressing the J key. It will take you to your spell book. There are different schools of spell, and you can mix and match these. You don't need to stick with one school. You can change these up depending on your playstyle. Defensive shield spells to negate damage, or maybe some hard-hitting chaos magic. You could even summon a legion of bones from the unholy tree. To unlock more spells though, you will need to hunt and kill the bosses found on the blood altar, so it is important that you do these. I mean, you need these anyway for crafting, recipes and buildings, and powers, so there's a lot of incentive to do them. A personal preference on spells is using the chaos magic for offensive spells and the unholy shield to summon a bone own army. You know, they can deal with my enemies for me because nobody got time for that. Your dodge, you choose in the same way spells, unlocking the Blood Altar and slaying the different bosses. The effects of the dodge also change depending on which one you use. So the one from Chaos, for example, allows you to jump twice. It's pretty cool. And it's probably my favorite as well. It's the one I use the most. All of your spells and abilities, you can change at any time. So you don't feel like you're tied down to only one choice. Play around, experiment, and have fun with it. Find new combos that work well together. The build craft of this game is pretty damn beautiful. The amount you get to mix and match and try something, if it doesn't work, try something else, and the amount the game calls for you to change your playstyle as well. What works against one boss might not work against another, so you've got to think about it and have a little play around with your skills. The final tip, the final piece of advice before you venture out into the world: avoid the sun. I can't count how many times I've been caught out by the damn sun. You can use trees, at ruins, at rocks, as shade. They all cast shadows. Just be careful. As the sun moves around, so does the shade. Try to avoid combat where you can when it is daylight. I hope you found this beginner's guide useful. There is a lot more I could talk about still with Vrising. So many more mechanics such as silver, minions, using the throne, your prisons, so much more. However, I wanted to keep this to some of the basics to get you started in the best way possible, without too much of an overload. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more from me. But I want to hear from you. What would be your biggest tip for any beginner? And also, what have I missed? I'd love to hear about it. But until next time, thank you, and I'll see you soon.